Hello, everyone, once again. This is Rob, and welcome back to Media Awareness and another Doctor Who review. This week we are talking about The Legend of Ruby Sunday. Before I get to that, however, a quick reminder the fundraiser continues. For those of you new to my channel or unaware, I am a disabled individual, and I use a motorized wheelchair slash scooter all day, every day for my independence, and I need your help. My insurance will not cover anything with regard to my scooter, as they view it as a quote luxury item end quote. Despite the fact that I am unable to walk whatsoever and unable to utilize any other type of powered chair or any standard wheelchair, for that matter, only having limited use of one hand. So with that stated, and without having a backup scooter, it is imperative that I raise the amount of funds necessary to obtain parts necessary to refurbish my existing scooter and pay technicians to do so. Below the title of this video and the description, as well as in a separate section below that, you will find a spot fund link. Any and all help is welcome, and all contributions are going towards the continued restoration of my existing scooter, which is imperative to my everyday independence. I pride myself on my independence and I thrive on my independence. And although I fully admit that I am not 100% independent in my everyday life, I don't want to be 100% dependent on individuals round the clock for my level of care when I am capable of taking care of a vast majority of my needs with my scooter intact. So please do what you can at the Spot Fund link. It is all greatly appreciated. I do want to extend a gracious thanks to those who have contributed thus far, in addition to those who plan on contributing, as your contributions have and will make a world of difference in my life. Thank you all. I love you all. On with this review. So, we have a really long awaited um, episode, in my opinion. We're at the end of this season, it would seem, and we have a two-parter. So we only got part one, but it was quite a bit to cram into one episode. So I want to cover this as smoothly as possible. Um, so we have uh, the episode starting out with the TARDIS approaching Unit and landing in Unit, and uh, Kate Lethbridge Stewart, who is fast becoming one of my favorite characters of all time in Doctor Who, is there to greet the Doctor along with some new staff members, including Rose, um, Donna's daughter, and uh, some other new um, additions to unit staff. There is a brilliant child there that I'm always against children being in these TV shows, um, especially when they're playing super geniuses. This works though remarkably well and doesn't become overly annoying, so that's a plus. But the doctor basically lands and says, we have a mystery here. We have an issue with Ruby Sunday, and Ruby Sunday is there with the doctor, and he basically says that every time that uh, they go anywhere in space and time, it seems to just start snowing at certain moments. And they decide to analyze the security videotape that was taken from the church on Ruby Road and see if they can get more out of it, even given they have the technology to do so. So Ruby goes back to her mom's house, and uh, her mom insists on her stepmom, I should say, uh, foster mom, uh, insists on going with her to unit and leaving the grandmother in the care of Mrs. Flood, who has appeared, I believe, twice before in this season. We still don't know her who she is, or if she is merely an acolyte. I will get to that though when that time arrives in this episode. So the doctor is um, introduced to the fact that unit has been monitoring this woman who is basically uh, introducing cutting edge ideas and technology into society. Um, and her name, she goes by the name of Susan Triad, of Susan Triad Industries, which the doctor very quickly figures out is an anagram of TARDIS, Triad, and it's suspected that she may be Susan Foreman, the doctor's granddaughter, who we last saw in the Five Doctors, I believe. That was the last time we saw her with Peter Davidson. So it's really built on that being the major unveiling, if you will. And um, the only drawback I have from this episode is a conversation the doctor has with Kate Leopard Stewart, who asks him, you have a granddaughter? And he says yes, and she's like, well, that means you have, a family, and he says not yet, which I understand time travel and such, but that just kind of skewed me the wrong way in terms of the time and the show itself, and you know this happening in the doctor having a family and granddaughter in his future, even though in his first, and supposedly what we know as his first incarnation, he had been uh, uh, in charge of Susan Foreman, um, but that would also imply that he traveled in a circular time pattern. It's hard to say. It really throws things off with that, but that's okay. So, as soon as they picked up on the um, possibility, as soon as they picked up on the anagram of TARDIS for Triad, they brought Melanie in once again, and Melanie was embedded into Susan Triad's staff as, I think, an assistant, and she hadn't really uncovered anything substantial. She said she seemed like a nice woman, and so on and so forth. Yet the doctor says and that she has been everywhere as well. And when you look at her face, you realize she has. She has been everywhere. Um, and uh, in every episode this season thus far. So, in one way, shape, or form, the previous episode, Rogue, she was embedded in a painting. Um, and of course, she's been present throughout the whole season. Uh, in one, like I said, in one way, shape, or form, she has been there. So the question becomes, what is her real significance? Well, um, that kind of becomes very, very clear. Basically, uh, the Rose's, not Rose, I'm sorry, uh, Ruby. Ruby's mother and Ruby head back to unit with the videotape, and uh, they bring it in, and the doctor asks, I think prior to that, if they have, or no, yeah, around that time, if they have a time window, and Kate looks at him and says, you told unit years ago that they weren't allowed to build one. And he reiterates, but do you have a time window? And she amusingly retorts with 10 floors down. And they emerge into this room, and it's basically sort of like the holodeck in Star Trek Next Generation, uh, where basically you could project things into this three-dimensional space, and Doctor's looking around, kind of making some snarky comments about how it was coupled together, and many of the instrumentation looks as though it was older and built over the years. So it's kind of neat with that aspect of things. But when they actually load the videotape in and project it inside this time window, it allows them to basically be at that time. And the reason for this is so that Ruby could figure out, and so that they can all figure out, who the woman that left Ruby behind is. Because in every instance where the doctor remembers her, it always changes for him. In addition to that, you can never make her out clearly in any of these images. She's always obscured in some way. Um, so they're trying to make her out in this image, and at one point it looks as though she's crying with her figure, um, and um, Ruby's foster mother, who's also there at that point, uh, says, don't worry, I took good care of her, even though it's just a projection of the past. But once again, the projection changes, and the creature, or the entity itself, I should say, because we don't know what she is, points at the doctor basically, or points slightly past the doctor towards the TARDIS. And there is a gentleman who is in the time window with them, and he goes to investigate, walks behind the TARDIS, and that's when you know something is going to happen to him, unfortunately. And he's radio doesn't transmit any longer, and when the projection stops, they find that he is, in essence, like a fossilized remain of who he once was. And Kate wants answers right there and then. So the doctor and Melanie go to see this Susan triad, and the doctor is really, really broken up about going in and seeing his granddaughter, and it's really taking a toll on him because it's been years since he did see her, and they Melanie eventually gets him into gear, and they walk in. He says hello to her, introduces himself, and he's like, "I'm the doctor." Of course, there is the Doctor Who, and he's like, "No, just a doctor." And she's like, "Oh, it's nice to meet you," and they shake hands, and there's uh, no indication of any recognition from her whatsoever as to him at all. And she goes on to give her speech, which is being televised um, all over the world. Reportedly, I think at that point, I know it's being presented in the U.S. and she's unveiling new technology, new ideas, and such. And she's basically giving her speech, and it's all on the teleprompter, so she's following that. And the doctor is sort of musing over the fact that it wasn't Susan. Meanwhile, UNIT, they uh, realize that things are really off, and the time window activates again. Ruby is sent down to that area to basically um, see why the time window has reactivated. In the meantime, uh, we start to see some actual real scariness in this Doctor Who that we haven't seen in quite some time in Doctor Who, and it really works effectively um, because Susan Triad her voice begins to fluctuate into almost a demonic voice, and around that same time there is someone at UNIT who is possessed as well, and her uh, last name translates to Harbinger, um, and things start to click with the doctor at that point, but you don't really know the extent of it. And then um, Susan Triad basically morphs entirely. Her face is all repulsive and really amazing special effects in this episode as well. Have to give it off to the special effects team for this because they really did a good job. And when this is all occurring, simultaneously at UNIT, there is um, a creature that they could not see initially that was near the TARDIS, and it appears, and it is Sutekh from classic Doctor Who. So we have another returning classic Doctor Who character. We had the Toymaker previously, and now we have Sutekh, and um, basically the episode ends off with this grand speech by Sutek after Kate Kate Lethbridge Stewart. I have to give her actress and her a lot of credit because she really does what the Doctor has usually done in the past, saying, I'm the Doctor and I've seen this, and that, and blah blah blah. Kate stands there before Sutek is revealed and says, you know, I'm Kate Lethbridge Stewart, and she mentions her father in this speech, and it's really powerful, and she's really confident, and it really works well. And then Sutek appears above the TARDIS, and we have the to be continued on the screen. So we still don't know who the figure is that left Ruby behind on Ruby Road. We can either presume that Mrs. Flood is either an acolyte of Sutek, or harbinger, I should say, of Sutek, not to cross genres as far as or cross television shows with Star Wars. So we'll say a harbinger of Sutek along with the character that was embedded in Unit, which also showcased some tremendous, really scary special effects as well. So, yeah, we have the return of Sutek, and Sutek is also being voiced by the original actor who did voice Sutek back in the original classic series. He is 91 years old at this point in time, and going strong. And give that guy a lot of credit. I hope I'm 91 doing these videos on YouTube, assuming YouTube is still around at that point, and not some interactive space where you can be right next to me in the same virtual reality plane of existence, which may be the future. Who knows? We shall see, I guess, in years to come. But for right now, we have a cliffhanger, a really intense cliffhanger with the return of Sutek, and I will say that it's really a welcome villain that was long coming, and really I think forgot about by a lot of people. It didn't really click with me until when the Doctor uh, shakes hands with her and there's no recognition. I started thinking about the letters of Susan Triad Industries, and it was going through my brain, and I was thinking about it, but I couldn't really pinpoint, I don't think, necessarily, that it was Sutek the whole time. So, when the toy maker made his comment, and when the maestro made their comment, uh, it was definitely a foreshadowing of Sutek. I do want to state something that was sort of troublesome. I don't know what happened to our beautiful character in the wheelchair. I forget her name. Julie, I think. I don't remember. From the beginning of this story arc when David Tennant was still within the story arc of these ancient villains who are more powerful than anything else out there. Um, I think, yeah, she was. But I wish we would have had her. Instead, we had the Genius Kid, and um, we had an abundance of unit characters that was a bit overkill. Um, in terms of trying to keep track of all these pieces in unit. I do like that Rose was there, and not the Doctor Urdana. It was sort of nice nod to the fact that they are still involved with unit, having Rose there. Um, but I I'm curious to see what next week brings. And uh, overall, I really liked this episode a lot. There was a lot to like, very little not to like. And it's definitely a worthwhile episode in this season of Doctor Who. I know I've had some complaints about previous episodes, um, especially Rogue being really loose on the main plot and um, more strong in the secondary plot line. But with that stated, this episode sort of made up for any of the weak points in prior episodes, even the episode prior to that, um, Dot and Bubble, um, which I think was a really weak episode as well. But this one really put things over the top, and I was very pleased with the way the writing went in this and the unveiling of Sutek and how that was done, and the fact that they got the original actor to come back and voice Sutek is also impressive given his current age. So yeah, Doctor Who, the Legend of Ruby Sunday. Have you seen it? What's your thoughts on it? Leave them in the comment section below. Please consider subscribing to my channel if you are not already subscribed. Become part of my YouTube family. I'd love to have you. I do all kinds of things on this channel. I do movie reviews and reactions. I do music video and music reactions, book reviews. Although I still have yet to do one, as I'm currently still rereading Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand, and I will have a review of that coming up hopefully very soon. It's a very long book. But other than that, I do a lot, so keep that in mind. Once again, also to keep in mind the regular day the fundraiser continues. Please do what you can. Any and all help is welcome. I love you all. Thank you for watching. I will see you soon. Have a wonderful morning, noon, or night, wherever you are. Take care. Bye.